The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 894. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have a phenomenal woman on the show today. She is the Global Pan-Asian Network People and Business Resource Group Lead for Bristol Myers Squibb, and I'm so excited to have her on today to share her story with us on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jennifer Rasing. Jennifer, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Hi, Sheena. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here today. I remember when I first met you in person, I was like, when am I going to be part of your podcast? And so to actually be here, it's really a privilege and honor. About myself, so I've been with Bristol Myers Squibb for 20 years, spanning various roles as a scientist, a clinical trials data manager, a compliance auditor, and currently the Global Pan-Asian Network Lead. And as Global PAM Lead, my focus is to champion the outcomes of our Pan-Asian community and to empower inclusion and diverse perspectives, advance health equity, and really to help bring more medicines to more patients globally.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Jennifer, what's your cultural background?
So my cultural background is Filipino American. I was born in California and grew up in Connecticut.
Thanks for sharing that. Can I just say, congrats to everything you've done. It's not typical for a Filipina to be a scientist. Most of the time, everyone thinks we become nurses. But I just want to say thank you for paving the way. So I just wanted to point that out. And what'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I have many self-confidence quotes that I absolutely love. My new favorite, I actually stumbled across this past weekend. I found it on a fortune cookie that was taped on my son's phone. And it goes, if you want the rainbow, you must tolerate the rain. And I love this quote because it is a reminder that life's hardships are steps toward achieving greatness and beauty. Growing up, my sisters and I were raised with certain expectations, right? To excel academically, to be well-rounded, and to follow in our parents' footsteps by either pursuing a career in engineering or medicine. And I was headed towards that path until I took an unexpected turn and I became pregnant at the age of 17. So being young, scared, and confused, I turned to my family for advice and guidance, which I was grateful for, right? But there was always that inner voice telling me to follow my heart. So I graduated high school and made the bold decision to move to upstate New York. There, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy and pursued my studies in biotechnology at RIT. And as you can imagine, it was no walk in the park and probably the most challenging experience I ever faced. I had no clue how to take care of a baby. My family was miles and miles away. The winters were brutal and my class load was totally insane. And I honestly think that I cried all the time. And eventually, it really did become easier. And I learned to embrace the rainstorms of life with resilience, grace, and strength. And I was confident and determined to pave the way forward and find my own rainbow. So fast forward to now, I have a beautiful family. My eldest son is a successful mechanical engineer at the NIH. So he took after my father. My son is a freshman in college, and my youngest is a senior in high school.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I love how you mentioned, weathering the storms to see the rainbows, right? And that's what life is. We have the highs and lows. We're going to go through the good and the bad and the ugly, but it's also all worth it, right? We see that light at the end of the tunnel, that rainbow that shines. And so I love this story that you have because it's not easy, definitely, right? You have a young son, you're trying to, move on with your career at the same time. And like, I've met, women who've done that. And sometimes I'm like, how did they do it all, right? But when you're determined, you're just going to find a way. And that's amazing. That's what's amazing about women. We just find a way no matter what happens, especially if we have a child in the picture. We're just like, we're super focused, regardless how exhausted we are as women. So I love that you mentioned that. And what would be your definition of self-confidence?
My definition of self-confidence would just to bet on yourself, right? If you need to bet on yourself, because if you don't bet on yourself, nobody else would. So that's my definition.
I love that definition. And it's so important. It does have to start with ourselves because if we don't see our capabilities, no one else is going to see it, right? If we don't bet on ourselves, then how do you expect other people to bet on us? So it really does start with our confidence, our abilities, our capabilities. Even if we have no clue where to start, we know we're capable. So I love that you mentioned that. And Jennifer, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
Well, growing up, my parents, which I love, they instilled in us to be confident, be curious, and courageous, right? I mean, landing a role as a scientist at BMS soon after graduating with a bachelor's in biotechnology while raising a young son, all at the age of 21, was pretty badass, right? However, there was a moment in my career where I felt insecure. I felt invisible and I felt like I didn't belong outside of the workplace. I was seen as how I was raised, right? Bold, confident, and fearless. But inside the workplace, I was the complete opposite. I was seen as quiet, hardworking, technically skilled, and not that leader. What's crazy was I began conforming into the person filled with self-doubt, questioning who I was, questioning my self-worth, and I was miserable. And I knew I had to snap out of it quick because I didn't want it to consume my entirety, right? I didn't want it to affect my personal life. I didn't want it to affect my family. So I had to do something to make a change.
Thanks for sharing that. And what was that moment in your life when you realized you can go out there and make that change, be the person that you are today? What was that aha moment?
That was my aha moment. I really believe that like I was low, like I was hit low. And if I knew that I needed to do something. I needed to do something for myself and I needed to do something for my family.
And I love that because sometimes, our driving force is our family, right? Our purpose is not just about us. It, revolves people around us. And when we're doing something for not just for ourselves, but for others, we just have this confidence because, it's not just about us. For you, it's your kids, it's your family, it's your livelihood. I mean, you're here, you have a career, but at the same time, you're also, just putting food on the table for your family and having a roof over your head. And if we just keep going down this rabbit hole of not feeling good, feeling miserable, then we're just stuck in our own stuff, if that makes sense. And so I'm glad you were able to kind of just wake up and realize like, oh, I need to get out of this or else it doesn't just affect me, it affects my family and it becomes like this domino effect. And because you were able to realize that and just be able to learn to snap out of it, learn to realize that, it's up to you to make these changes, what's your life been like now?
And that's the thing, right? After my aha moment, I made it a promise to myself that I would never question my worth and that I would leave life with the three G's. So grit, gravitas, and grace, right? So just thinking about my past experiences and just the hardship and the resilience and the perseverance that I had to face, right? And the gravitas to lead the way I want to lead, my authentic self. And just to be kind to myself and be kind to others, because I believe that I really owe it to my younger self who really fought hard to see the rainbows.
Thanks for sharing that. And I'm so glad you kept moving forward because look where you are today. You're doing such amazing things. And I'm so grateful that we actually met through US PAC in New York City when we had the big billboard in New York Times Square. It was so much fun. Looking forward to the upcoming in-person events later this year. And Jennifer, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence, what'd be that one tip you would give to her?
To trust your inner voice, right? There's a lot of noise and just around you. So just find time to find that quiet and really trust that inner voice.
I love that. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done because we always doubt ourselves, but our inner voice is giving us a sign, a clue. It's telling us something for a reason. And sometimes it may not look like what you imagine in your head when your inner voice is telling you something, but it'll all work out in the end. So I love that tip that you mentioned. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yes, and I will share my LinkedIn with you so that anybody can please stay connected. I'm more than happy to just help and be the voice for women today.
Thanks for sharing that. And for our listeners, if you want to connect with Jennifer, you can also head on over to the and search for Jennifer's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Jennifer today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. And thank you again, Jennifer, for paving the way and being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Sheena. It was so great to be here today. Thank you.
Not a problem. It was such an honor to have you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.